It happened on a Thursday evening, right after I'd spent 2 hours helping her mother move furniture around her living room for the third time that month. I walked through the door exhausted, my back aching from lifting that ancient oak dresser up and down the stairs because the woman couldn't make up her mind about where it should go. My wife was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with that look she gets when she's already decided I've done something wrong. Your mother finally settled on keeping the dresser upstairs, I said, hoping for maybe a thank you or at least some acknowledgement that I'd sacrificed my evening again for her family. Instead, she looked up with this cold expression and said, "She told me you seemed frustrated the whole time. You know, she's starting to think you don't really care about helping." I felt my jaw tighten. This was becoming a pattern. No matter what I did for her family, it was never enough, never done with the right attitude, never appreciated. I'd been bending over backwards for months, trying to keep everyone happy, trying to be the perfect husband and son-in-law. I spent 2 hours moving heavy furniture for free. I replied, keeping my voice level. "I think a little fatigue is understandable." That's when she delivered the line that would haunt our marriage. She put down her phone, looked me straight in the eye, and said with complete conviction, "Honestly, I'm starting to think you just can't satisfy anyone. Not her, not me, not anyone." The words hit me like a physical blow, not because they hurt my feelings, but because they revealed something crucial about how she really saw me. Here I was, constantly trying to please everyone around me, sacrificing my own comfort and time, and this was her assessment of my efforts. I stood there for a moment, letting her words sink in. Then something shifted inside me, but not in the way she expected. I felt this strange sense of clarity, like I'd been playing a game without knowing the rules, and she'd just handed me the rulebook. "You know what?" I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "You're absolutely right." She blinked, clearly not expecting that response. "What do you mean?" "I mean you're right. I can't satisfy anyone, so I'm going to stop trying." I walked toward the kitchen, loosening my tie. "Starting now." "That's not what I meant," she called after me. But I was already opening the refrigerator, looking for something to eat. "Oh, but it is exactly what you meant," I said without turning around. "You've made it crystal clear that my efforts are worthless. So why waste the energy?" The next morning, I didn't make her coffee. For 3 years, I'd been getting up 15 minutes early to have her perfect cup ready when she came downstairs. French press, 2 sugars, splash of cream. That morning, I made myself a simple black coffee and sat at the table reading the news on my phone. She stumbled into the kitchen in her robe, looking around confused. "Where's my coffee?" "Coffee maker's right there," I said without looking up. "You know how to use it." "But you always make it." "I always made it to satisfy you. But since I can't satisfy anyone, I figured I'd save us both the disappointment." I took a sip of my coffee and continued reading. She stood there for a moment, processing what was happening. Then she laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "You're being ridiculous." "I didn't mean it like that." "Sure you did." I finally looked up at her. "You said I can't satisfy anyone. Those were your exact words. So I'm taking your advice and stopping the attempt entirely." That evening, I came home from work and went straight to my home office. Usually, I'd ask about her day, help with dinner, maybe suggest what we could watch together. Instead, I closed the door and worked on my own projects. Around 7, she knocked. "Dinner's ready," she said through the door. "Thanks, I'll grab something later," I replied, not moving from my desk. "I made your favorite pasta." "That's nice of you, but I don't want to disappoint you with my reaction to it. You know how I can't satisfy anyone." The silence on the other side of the door stretched for a full minute before I heard her footsteps walking away. By the weekend, the pattern was established. I stopped doing the little things I'd always done to make her happy. No more bringing her tea while she watched her shows. No more asking if she needed anything from the store. No more planning date nights or suggesting activities we could do together. When she complained that I wasn't being attentive anymore, I'd simply remind her of her own words. "You said I can't satisfy anyone. I'm just trying to spare you the frustration of my inadequate efforts." The beauty of this approach was its simplicity. I wasn't being cruel or vindictive. I was just absent, emotionally absent from the constant effort to please her. And for the first time in years, I felt genuinely relaxed at home. Sunday morning, she was folding laundry in the living room when I walked through with my gym bag. She looked up expectantly, probably hoping I'd offer to help or at least acknowledge what she was doing. "Going to the gym?" I said simply. "On Sunday morning? We usually have breakfast together on Sundays. I usually make breakfast to satisfy you on Sundays. But since that's impossible, I figured I'd do something that actually satisfies me instead." Her face flushed with anger. "You're being petty." "I'm being efficient," I corrected. "Why waste time on actions that you've already determined are failures?" As I headed for the door, she called out, "How long are you going to keep this up?" I paused at the threshold and turned back to look at her. She was standing there holding one of my shirts, looking smaller somehow than she had just a week ago. "As long as it takes," I said. "You taught me that I can't satisfy anyone. That's a valuable lesson. I'm just putting it into practice." The door closed behind me with a soft click, leaving her alone with her laundry and her words. The sexual undertone of her comment wasn't lost on me. When she said I couldn't satisfy anyone, she wasn't just talking about her mother or social situations. The way she'd looked at me, the venom in her voice, It was clear she meant I couldn't satisfy her in the most intimate way possible. So I decided to take that lesson to heart too. Monday night, she came to bed wearing that silk nightgown she only wore when she wanted something. For months, I'd been the one always initiating, always trying to please her, always making sure she was taken care of first. Tonight, I simply got into bed, said goodnight, and turned off my bedside lamp. She lay there for a while, clearly expecting me to make a move. When I didn't, she shifted closer, her hand touching my chest. "Long day?" she asked, her voice taking on that sultry tone. "Not particularly," I replied, not moving toward her. "Wanna relax together?" Her hand moved lower, but I gently moved it away. "I'm good, thanks. Early morning tomorrow." The silence that followed was deafening. She rolled back to her side of the bed with more force than necessary, but I didn't react. After all, why would I try to satisfy someone who'd already told me I was incapable of it? Tuesday brought new territory. She started testing boundaries, trying to provoke reactions. At breakfast, she made a comment about how the neighbor looked good working in his yard without his shirt on. Usually, I would have felt a pang of jealousy or at least acknowledged her attempt to get a rise out of me. Instead, I just nodded. "Good for him. Good for him," she repeated, clearly frustrated by my lack of reaction. "Yeah, maintaining physical fitness is important. Smart guy." I finished my coffee and stood up. "I'm working late tonight, so don't wait up." "Working late on what?" "Projects that I can actually complete successfully," I said with a slight smile. "You know, the kind that don't require satisfying anyone." That evening, I actually did work late, but not because I had to. I'd started a woodworking project in the garage, something I'd always wanted to try, but never had time for because I was too busy trying to keep her happy. The rhythmic motion of sanding, the satisfaction of seeing raw would transform into something beautiful. It was exactly what I needed. She came out to the garage around 10, wearing a tight sweater and jeans. "What are you making?" "A bookshelf for my office." "Our office," she corrected. "My office," I repeated calmly, since I'm the only one who uses it. She watched me work for a few minutes, clearly trying to find an angle. "You know, I've been thinking about what I said last week. Maybe I was just frustrated. Maybe you were just honest. I didn't look up from my work. Either way, it doesn't matter now." "Of course it matters. We're married, are we?" I finally looked at her directly. Because married people usually try to build each other up, not tear each other down. They usually appreciate each other's efforts instead of dismissing them. Her face flushed. "I didn't dismiss your efforts. You literally said I can't satisfy anyone. That's not dismissing, that's condemning." I went back to sanding. "But like I said, it doesn't matter now. Problem solved." Wednesday, she tried a different approach. She cooked an elaborate dinner, set the table with candles, even put on makeup. When I came home, she was wearing a dress I'd complimented her on months ago. "Special occasion?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Can't a wife make a nice dinner for her husband?" "Of course she can." I sat down and took a bite. "This is good. You're getting better at cooking." She beamed at the compliment, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. I was being polite, appreciative even, but there was no warmth behind it. No attempt to connect or build intimacy. "I thought maybe after dinner we could watch that movie you wanted to see," she suggested. "Which movie?" "The one about the detective you mentioned last month." I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. "I never mentioned a detective movie." "Yes, you did. You said you wanted to watch it with me." "I think you're confusing me with someone else," I said simply. "But you should watch it if you're interested." The look on her face was priceless. She'd clearly made up the movie reference, probably hoping I'd go along with it just to spend time with her. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. After dinner, she suggested we sit on the couch together. I politely declined, saying I had reading to catch up on. What I didn't mention was that I was reading about investment strategies, planning for a future where I focused solely on my own goals and happiness. Thursday night, she finally snapped. I was in the kitchen making myself a sandwich when she stormed in, arms crossed, fire in her eyes. "This is ridiculous," she declared. "You're punishing me for one comment." "I'm not punishing you," I replied, keeping my voice level. "I'm just following your guidance. You said I can't satisfy anyone, so I stopped trying to satisfy you. It's actually been quite liberating." "You know what I meant." "Do I?" "Because you seem pretty clear about it. You said I can't satisfy anyone, and given the context of our conversation and the way you looked at me, I assumed you meant anyone, including you, especially you." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. We both knew exactly what she'd meant, and we both knew she couldn't take it back now. "So what? You're just going to ignore me forever?" "I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not wasting energy on impossible tasks." I took a bite of my sandwich. "You want coffee in the morning? Make it yourself. You want romance? Find someone who can actually satisfy you. You want attention? Earn it. Earn it." Her voice rose an octave. "That's how it works in the real world. You don't get rewarded for telling people they're failures. You don't get effort from people you've declared incompetent." I cleaned up my plate and started walking toward the door. "Basic human psychology. Where are you going?" "To do something I'm actually good at," I called back, since satisfying you apparently isn't one of them. That night, she tried one more time to get my attention. She came to bed wearing nothing but a smile, positioning herself so I couldn't miss the invitation. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Not tonight," I said simply, Picking up my book. Not tonight. We haven't been intimate in over a week. Correct. And given your assessment of my abilities, I figured I'd spare us both the disappointment. She stared at me for a long moment, probably waiting for me to crack, to give in, to go back to trying desperately to please her. Instead, I turned the page and continued reading. The sound of her frustrated sigh filled the room, but I didn't look up. After all, I was just a man who couldn't satisfy anyone. Why would I think tonight would be any different? The first real test came Friday when she reminded me about her friend's birthday party that weekend. For 2 years running, I'd been the dutiful husband at these events, making small talk with people I barely knew and pretending to enjoy conversations about reality TV shows. You're coming to the party on Saturday, right? She asked over breakfast. I looked up from my newspaper. I wasn't planning on it. What do you mean? I already told everyone you'd be there. Then you'll need to untell them. I'm going fishing with guys from work. You can't just skip this. It's important to me. I'm sure it is. But you said I can't satisfy anyone, so my presence would probably just disappoint your friends anyway. I folded the newspaper. Better to save everyone the trouble. Saturday morning, I left for the lake at 5:30. The fishing trip was exactly what I needed. No pressure to perform, just honest conversation with men who didn't require me to walk on eggshells. When I got home that evening, she was waiting like a prosecutor ready to present her case. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? She started before I'd even put my gear down. How embarrassing what was? Having to explain to everyone why my husband couldn't be bothered to show up. What did you tell them? I told them you were sick. You lied to them. I had to say something. I couldn't tell them the truth. Which is, she paused, realizing she'd backed herself into a corner. That you're being childish about something I said. No, the truth is that you told your husband he can't satisfy anyone, and he took your advice seriously. Your friends won't have to deal with my inadequate social skills at future events. The next week brought a new challenge. Her sister was having a dinner party, and apparently, I was expected to attend. We're not going, I said simply when she brought it up. What do you mean we're not going? She's my sister. You're welcome to go. I'm reorganizing my workshop. You're choosing to organize your workshop over family dinner? I'm choosing to do something I'm actually good at instead of something I'll inevitably fail at. I met her eyes directly, following your advice about not trying to satisfy people. That Saturday, while she went to her sister's house, I spent the day building a new workbench. It was the most productive Saturday I'd had in months. When she came home, she was furious. My sister thinks you hate her now. I don't hate her. I just stopped pretending to be something I'm not. Which is what? Someone who can satisfy people. You made it very clear that I'm incapable of it. She slammed her purse down. How long are you going to keep throwing that in my face? I'm not throwing anything. I'm living by your assessment of my abilities. It's actually been quite freeing. Free? Absolutely. No more pressure to impress people who are unimpressible. No more wasted effort on thankless tasks. I didn't look up from my magazine. You gave me permission to stop trying, and I took it. Sunday morning, she made one more attempt. She cooked breakfast, set the table nicely, and picked flowers for a centerpiece. I made your favorite, she announced. That's thoughtful. It's good, I said, eating quietly while reading the news on my phone. She waited for more, but I just ate in silence. Finally, she couldn't stand it. Don't you have anything else to say? About what? About the effort I put in. I looked up, genuinely puzzled. You made food. I said it was good. What else is there to say? Maybe thank you. Maybe appreciation. Why would I do that? When I made you breakfast every morning for 3 years, you never thanked me. You just expected it. When I made you coffee every morning, you never showed appreciation. Her face went pale. That's different. How is it different? Because that's just what you did, right? And this is just what you're doing now. The difference is, I'm not going to start expecting it from you, because you've taught me that my expectations are unreasonable. She sat down, her plate untouched. I never said your expectations were unreasonable. You said I can't satisfy anyone. That includes you. So clearly, any expectation I have of satisfying you is unreasonable. I finished my eggs and stood up. Thanks for breakfast. It was adequate. The word adequate hung in the air like a slap. She'd used that word to describe my efforts countless times. I'm going to the hardware store for materials for my next project. Something I can actually complete successfully. As I walked toward the door, I could feel her watching, probably waiting for me to turn around, to soften, to give her some sign that I was ready to go back to the way things were. Instead, I grabbed my keys and headed out, leaving her alone with her thoughts and her untouched breakfast. By the third week, she was getting desperate. The woman who'd confidently declared I couldn't satisfy anyone was now scrambling to get my attention back. It was almost amusing to watch her cycle through different tactics, each one more transparent than the last. Monday morning, she tried the guilt approach. She made a big show of struggling with a heavy laundry basket, sighing loudly as she carried it past my home office. Usually, I would have jumped up to help. This time, I didn't even look up from my computer. This thing is so heavy, she announced to no one in particular. Gym membership might help with that. I called back without turning around. Tuesday, she switched to jealousy tactics. She started mentioning how helpful the neighbor was, how he'd offered to fix her car, how attractive the new mailman looked. I responded to each comment with the same level of interest I'd show someone discussing the weather. Did you know the neighbor offered to look at my car engine? That's nice of him. You should take him up on that. You don't care that another man is helping your wife. Why would I care? You said I can't satisfy anyone anyway. At least he might actually be able to help you. Her face flushed with frustration. This wasn't the reaction she'd expected. Wednesday brought the tears. She cornered me in the kitchen while I was making my lunch for work, her eyes red and watery. I miss how we used to be, she said, her voice breaking slightly. Do you? Because the way we used to be involved me constantly trying to please you while you criticized everything I did. I continued making my sandwich without looking at her. Seems like you didn't miss it much when you told me I was incapable of satisfying anyone. I was just upset. People say things they don't mean when they're upset. Maybe, but they also say things they do mean when they think no one will call them on it. I wrapped my sandwich and put it in my lunch bag. The truth has a way of coming out when people are angry. So you're just going to punish me forever? I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. I turned to face her directly. You taught me that my efforts are worthless. I'm just applying that lesson. That evening, she tried a different approach. She'd invited her mother over for dinner, clearly hoping that family pressure would force me back into my old role. When I came home to find them both in the kitchen, I knew exactly what was happening. Look who's here, my wife announced with forced cheer. Hello, I said politely to her mother, then headed toward my office. Aren't you going to stay for dinner? Her mother asked. We're making your favorite. That's thoughtful, but I already ate. This was a lie, but I wasn't about to be manipulated by tag team guilt tactics. He's been working so much lately, my wife said, shooting me a meaningful look. Barely home anymore. Work's been busy, I agreed. Lots of projects that actually need my attention. Her mother looked confused by the tension in the room, but I wasn't about to explain our marital problems to her. Instead, I went to my office and closed the door. Thursday, she tried seduction again. She came to bed wearing the lingerie I'd bought her for her birthday, the same outfit that used to drive me wild. She positioned herself strategically, making sure I couldn't miss the invitation. I've been thinking about us, she said, her voice taking on that sultry tone. Have you? About how good we used to be together. How much passion we had. I looked at her for a moment, really looked at her. She was beautiful, no doubt about it. But beauty without respect was just packaging. Passion requires mutual satisfaction, I said simply. Since you've established that I'm incapable of providing that, it seems pointless to pursue it. You know that's not what I meant. Actually, I think it's exactly what you meant. You said I can't satisfy anyone. That includes you, doesn't it? She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. We both knew she'd meant every word. Friday brought the most desperate attempt yet. She'd called in reinforcements. Her best friend was waiting in our living room when I got home from work, clearly there for an intervention. We need to talk, her friend announced as soon as I walked in. About what? About how you're treating your wife. She's been crying for weeks. I looked at my wife, who was sitting on the couch looking appropriately miserable. Has she told you why she's been crying? She said you two had a fight, and now you're giving her the silent treatment. Is that what she said? I turned to my wife. Is that really how you described our situation? My wife looked uncomfortable. I told her we were having problems. Did you tell her what you said to me? The exact words you used. That's not important. I think it's very important. I looked at her friend. She told me I can't satisfy anyone. Not just her, anyone. So I took her advice and stopped trying to satisfy her. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? Her friend looked shocked. She said that. Those were her exact words. I think you just can't satisfy anyone. So I'm following her guidance. The friend turned to my wife. You actually said that to him? I was upset. People say things when they're upset. Some things you can't take back, I said calmly. Some words reveal what people really think. Her friend left shortly after, clearly uncomfortable with the real story. My wife tried to salvage the situation. You didn't have to embarrass me like that. I didn't embarrass you. You embarrassed yourself when you said something you can't defend. I loosened my tie. If you're ashamed of your words, maybe you shouldn't have said them. That weekend, I started my most visible project yet. I began converting the spare bedroom into a proper home gym. When she asked what I was doing, I explained that I was focusing on self-improvement. Self-improvement, physical fitness, mental health, personal goals. All the things I neglected while I was wasting time trying to satisfy people. I moved the old furniture into the garage. Turns out I'm pretty good at satisfying myself. This is ridiculous. You're acting like a completely different person. I'm acting like the person you told me I was. Someone who can't satisfy others, so I might as well focus on satisfying myself. Sunday night, she made her final desperate play. She sat me down and tried to have a serious conversation about our future. We can't keep going like this, she said. You're right. We can't. So what do we do? I looked at her for a long moment. That depends on you. On me. You created this situation with your words. You can either own them and live with the consequences, or you can prove they were wrong. I stood up. But I'm not going back to being your emotional punching bag while I desperately try to win approval that you'll never give. What does that mean? It means the old version of me is gone. The guy who begged for scraps of appreciation, who accepted insults disguised as criticism, who bent over backwards for people who wouldn't cross the street for him. I headed toward the stairs. That guy died the night you told him he couldn't satisfy anyone. And who are you now? I paused at the bottom of the stairs. I'm a man who knows his worth. and I'm done trying to prove it to people who refuse to see it. As I walked upstairs, I could hear her crying softly in the living room. But this time, her tears didn't move me. They were just the sound of someone finally understanding that actions have consequences. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening, exactly 1 month after she delivered her devastating assessment of my abilities. I was in my new home gym, finishing a set of bench presses, when she appeared in the doorway. Her face was streaked with tears, and for the first time since this whole thing started, she looked genuinely broken. "We need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I finished my set and sat up, grabbing my towel. "About what?" "About us. About what I said. About everything." "I'm listening." She stepped into the room, wrapping her arms around herself. "I've been thinking about what you said, about how I created this situation. And you're right. I did say those words. I didn't mean to hurt you." Her voice cracked. "But I never thought you'd actually take them seriously." I stood up and faced her directly. "Why wouldn't I take them seriously? They came from my wife, the person who's supposed to know me better than anyone else. Because I was angry. Because I was trying to win an argument. Because She trailed off, unable to finish. "Because you what?" "Because I wanted to hurt you the way you'd hurt me." This was new. "How did I hurt you?" "By always putting everyone else first. Your work, my family, your friends, everyone but me. I felt like I was last on your list of priorities." I processed this for a moment. "So you told me I couldn't satisfy anyone because you felt unsatisfied?" "Yes." "No, I don't know." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I was frustrated, and I said something horrible." "You said something true." "It wasn't true, wasn't it?" "Because looking back at our relationship, I was constantly trying to please you and failing. Constantly adjusting my behavior to meet your expectations and falling short. You criticized everything from how I loaded the dishwasher to how I talked to your mother." I crossed my arms. "Maybe you were just finally honest about how you really saw my efforts." "That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair?" My voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. Fair would have been having a conversation about feeling neglected. Fair would have been working together to solve the problem. Telling your husband he can't satisfy anyone isn't fair. It's cruel. She flinched at the word cruel, but I wasn't done. "You didn't just criticize something I did. You attacked who I am as a man, as a husband, as a human being. You told me I was fundamentally incapable of making anyone happy." I took a step closer. "Do you have any idea what that does to someone?" "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Are you? Or are you just sorry that your words had consequences?" "I'm sorry I said it. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't enough." "But I wasn't enough, was I? That's why you said it. Because somewhere deep down, you really believe I can't satisfy you." She was crying harder now. "No, that's not true." "Then prove it." "How?" I walked over to the weight rack and began putting away my equipment, my movements deliberate and controlled. "You can't. Because the words are out there now. They're part of our history. Every time I try to do something nice for you, I'll remember that you think I'm incapable of satisfying anyone. Every time I make an effort, I'll wonder if you're just tolerating it because you feel guilty. So what are you saying?" I turned to face her one final time. "I'm saying that you have a choice to make. You can either accept that you're married to a man who, according to you, can't satisfy anyone and adjust your expectations accordingly. Or you can admit that what you said was not only wrong but deliberately destructive and work to rebuild what you tore down." I choose the second one. I want to rebuild. Do you? Because rebuilding means acknowledging that you were completely wrong. It means admitting that you said something designed to destroy my confidence in our relationship. It means taking full responsibility for the damage you caused. I do. I take full responsibility. It also means understanding that things will never go back to the way they were. The old me, the one who bent over backwards for scraps of approval, is gone. If you want a relationship with the new me, you'll need to earn it. What does that mean? It means no more criticism disguised as helpful suggestions. No more dismissing my efforts. No more taking me for granted. I grab my water bottle. It means treating me like a partner, not a project. I can do that. Can you? Because it also means accepting that I won't tolerate disrespect anymore. Not from you, not from your family, not from anyone. The days of me being everyone's emotional doormat are over. She nodded eagerly. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about changing how you talk to me. This is about changing how you see me. You told me I can't satisfy anyone because that's genuinely what you believe. Changing your words won't change your beliefs. My beliefs were wrong. Were they? Or are you just saying that because you don't like the consequences of expressing them? She was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with the question. Finally, she looked up at me with something that might have been genuine recognition. They were wrong. I was wrong. You've spent years trying to make me happy, and instead of appreciating it, I criticized it. Instead of being grateful, I was entitled. Instead of building you up, I tore you down. Her voice grew stronger. You're right. I said something designed to hurt you, and it worked. But it also destroyed something precious, and I want to fix it. Fixing it won't be easy. It won't be quick. And it won't go back to the old dynamic where I chase your approval while you withhold it. I don't want the old dynamic either. I want something better. Something where we both feel valued and respected. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or false sincerity. What I saw was exhaustion, regret, and something that looked like genuine understanding. Here's what's going to happen, I said finally. You're going to prove to me that you respect my efforts by acknowledging them consistently. You're going to prove that you value our relationship by contributing to it equally. And you're going to prove that you understand the damage you caused by never, ever using words as weapons against me again. And if I do all that, then maybe we can build something new, something stronger than what we had before. But it will be built on mutual respect, not on me desperately trying to satisfy someone who's convinced I can't. She wiped her eyes and nodded. I want that. I want to try. Good. Because this is your one chance. There won't be another conversation like this one. Either you commit completely to changing, or we'll continue living as roommates who happen to share a mortgage. I commit. Completely. I picked up my towel and headed for the door. We'll see. Actions speak louder than words. And after what you said to me, you have a lot of actions to make up for. As I left her standing in my gym, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the certainty that I was worth fighting for. Whether she figured that out or not was entirely up to her. 3 months later, I was in my home office when she knocked on the door. This simple gesture said everything about how our dynamic had changed. The old her would have just walked in, interrupting whatever I was doing. The new her had learned to respect my space. Come in, I called. She entered carrying coffee, made exactly how I liked it. I thought you might want this. I accepted it and took a sip. Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. She smiled, but not with desperate relief. This was the confident smile of someone who knew their efforts were valued. The transformation hadn't happened overnight. The first few weeks had been rocky. She tried to slip back into old patterns, catching herself mid-criticism. But she'd done something I'd never seen before. She'd corrected herself immediately. The lawn looks uneven, she'd said one Saturday, then stopped. Actually, thank you for cutting the grass. The yard looks great. Each correction was small, but they added up. More importantly, they showed genuine effort to change her perspective. The real test came 6 weeks ago when her mother visited. The same woman who'd criticized my furniture moving had made a snide comment about the patio arrangement. Before I could respond, my wife stepped in. Mom, he spent 2 hours arranging everything for your visit. Maybe try saying thank you instead of finding problems. Her mother looked shocked. I was shocked too. I was just suggesting. Her mother started. You were being ungrateful. My wife cut her off. And I won't tolerate anyone disrespecting my husband in our home. That night, I found her cleaning up in the kitchen. Thank you, I'd said simply. For what? For having my back. For defending me. She turned to face me. I should have been doing that all along. I'm sorry it took me so long. Since then, things had continued improving. She'd started acknowledging my efforts consistently. When I fixed the leaky faucet, she thanked me instead of pointing out my 3 trips to the hardware store. When I planned date night, she expressed genuine appreciation. More importantly, she'd started contributing equally. She began planning surprises, taking initiative on projects, showing interest in my hobbies. I signed us up for that woodworking class, she told me last month. I thought it might be fun to learn together. The physical intimacy had returned too, but different now, built on mutual respect and satisfaction. She'd stopped seeing it as something I needed to earn and started seeing it as something we shared. The biggest change was how she talked about our relationship to others. Where she used to complain about me, now she spoke about us as a team. My husband is renovating our bathroom. I'd overheard her telling her sister. He's so talented. I'm lucky to have someone who can create beautiful things. Now, sitting with the coffee she'd brought, I reflected on how we'd gotten here. It hadn't been about me changing back. It had been about her recognizing the man I'd always been underneath the desperate need for approval. Are you busy tonight? She asked. Not particularly. What? I made reservations at that steakhouse you like. I thought we could celebrate. Celebrate what? She smiled genuinely. 4 months since our gym conversation. 4 months since I started working to deserve you again. I leaned back, studying her face. And how do you think that's going? I think we're getting there. I know I hurt you deeply, and it took time to rebuild your trust. But we have something stronger now than we ever had before. She was right. Our relationship wasn't built on my desperate attempts to please her anymore. It was built on mutual respect, effort, and satisfaction. You know what the difference is? I asked. What? The old you told me I couldn't satisfy anyone. The new you works every day to show me that I can satisfy the person who matters most. Her eyes filled with tears, good tears this time. I love you. The real you. The strong you. The you that refused to let me destroy what we had. I love you too. But more importantly, I respect you now. You proved you could change, grow, become the partner I always hoped you could be. She kissed my forehead. Dinner's at 7. We're something nice. I want to show off my husband. As she left, I smiled. The man who couldn't satisfy anyone had learned something important. He didn't need to satisfy everyone. He just needed to find people who valued what he offered. When he stopped accepting less than he deserved, he'd created space for something better. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a relationship is refuse to participate in your own disrespect. Sometimes love means setting standards and sticking to them. I'd been willing to lose it all rather than accept crumbs. And in doing so, I gained something far more valuable. A partner who saw my worth and worked every day to prove she deserved it.